We often don't think about the many ways that we use storage and the many things that storage is used for. The operating system, user applications, user documents, virtual memory, and so on. Let's take a look at these and kind of think about how these are used as we're using the computer. What I'm going to do is go back to my drawing tool here, and let's just draw. This won't be a very straight line, but I always do this with my mouse here. Let's just pretend that this is RAM. So these are individual bytes of RAM, or even kilobytes of RAM. All right, so RAM goes all through this thing. Now, remember that the CPU needs information very, very fast. So that means that when we turn on the machine, the machine doesn't already have the operating system loaded. The operating system is sitting there on our hard drive or our SSD drive. And that has to be loaded into RAM, right? So that loads itself somewhere here into RAM. Here's the OS, taking up some space on our RAM. And then we load an application. Let's say we load Word, for example. All right, so then that is going to load. So now we have the application over here, the OS and the application. And then we need a document, right? If you're going to use Word, you might be working in a document. So here's our Word doc. And that's going to take up some more of our memory. Now I'm going to skip over virtual memory for a moment. I want to talk about that one at the end. But remember that also, as the system is being used, both the operating system and our applications generate various log files. So there has to be a place for these log files. So from here maybe to here are a bunch of log files. Right? So now those are in here. Now virtual machines are operating systems inside of operating systems. In other words, it's run like an application inside your operating system, but it's another operating system running inside of it. So now we have another OS, a virtual OS running inside of here. Right? You may even have an application running inside of that. Here's an app, like another Word, for example, running inside of that. Many applications, especially things like web servers and so on, need database storage. So, in other words, some data. It's fine to have an application and a document is data, but you might have other kinds of data as well, usernames and so on. So those also have to go in here. So this is just general data. Well, you see what's happened. I'm running out of memory here. Well, how am I going to deal with that? Now is where the virtual memory comes in. What happens? Well, what happens is that on my hard drive, we've got some space reserved here where we can offload some of this information. So we'll just take some of this information here, and we will offload that here and free up some memory so that we now have more space for data or operating systems or whatever we need it for. And then when we need that information back again in memory, we'll just offload something else, right? Something else down here, for example. We'll offload that, and then we'll bring this back again. And so we just keep swapping it in and out as we need it. Now, of course, putting stuff on here is very slow. It's much, much slower than it is reading it directly from RAM into the CPU. So it takes time, and you might hear your hard drive thrashing around as it's doing this swapping. Sometimes we even call this a swap file. In Linux, for example, you call it a swap file. In Windows, you call it virtual memory. And you can set the size of the virtual memory. Sorry about the background noise. My wife is making salad, and you hear the salad spinner back there. But anyway, so you swap information in and out from memory to the hard drive, and that is virtual memory. There's also perhaps virtual memory set aside for your virtual machines. That is memory just used for the virtual machines. So because virtual machines need some RAM too, right? So this is, look at the many things that we put on our storage devices. And this is one reason we need so many storage devices. And it's one reason that we run out of memory. It's one reason that when your computer starts to run slow, one thing that you can do is to just throw more memory at it. Just add memory sticks. It's probably the cheapest way that you can increase the apparent speed of your computer. So the first thing that you want to do when you're running out of memory is probably when your computer gets slower and slower, is to think about, do I need more RAM? Do I need more memory so that I have more space and I'm doing less swapping?